Hi everyone, this is Stan. I hope you're all having a great day. Recently, we have all seen an increase in new cases of the CCP virus in Taiwan. From single cases daily, now we have more than 200. And many of the Taiwanese became very anxious about the pandemic again. But at the same time, it's worthy to mention how did the public react. And how well organized and responsible the people in Taiwan are. Taiwanese are true heroes in fighting the pandemic. And I think that many countries can learn from the experiences of Taiwan. And also, how should the responsible citizens act in times of hardship. Actually, I can't think of any other country that has been as efficient in fighting the virus as Taiwan. And we should all remember the story of Taiwan. A story of the democratic country that has been for a long time under threats of invasion by the CCP regime. And how have the Taiwanese been fighting with the pandemic, which originated in China. Before we started today's discussion, I have to say that I'm jealous of Taiwan's abilities to counter the pandemic. Just think of it, for the whole year the virus has been contained. Very few new cases. At the time, the businesses all around the world have been closing, people losing their social lives. So, to my Taiwanese friends, keep on fighting. Please follow the instructions of the government. And you can show the world once again that you are the true champions in this fight against the coronavirus. As we know, the new variants of this virus are highly contagious. If we look at Asian countries, even though the pandemic situation has been improving for a while, but recently due to the new variants of the CCP virus spreading swiftly, Asian countries are becoming impacted again. First, India was hit by the new wave of the virus, with the Southeast Asian countries following. The number of new cases went up in Japan and Taiwan. Moreover, at the same time we saw the outbreak of the epidemic in Anhui, Liaoning and other areas of China. But the CCP, which is Chinese Communist Party, still kept Taiwan as its key target in their cognitive warfare attacks. According to the information currently held by the Taiwan's National Security Bureau, the CCP issued an order last week to launch a new round of cognitive warfare attacks against Taiwan. Those attacks were conducted by the Network System Department of the Strategic Support Force, the Ministry of State Security, and the Taiwan Affairs Office of the State Council, and so on. The goal, as always, was to deepen internal conflicts in Taiwan and weaken the credibility of the Taiwanese government in the eyes of the people, defame Taiwan's work and efficiency in community-acquired infection prevention. In other words, not let Taiwan successfully implement its epidemic prevention measures. Slow down the efforts of the Taiwanese government to decrease the spread of the virus. It was also an attack on Taiwanese people's confidence in themselves and the government. Those cognitive warfare efforts didn't stop, and they keep on evolving. There also is an important factor here: conspiracy theorists that are supporting the CCP and making sensationalist videos on Taiwan's government trying to conceal the pandemic. The so-called prophecies of cognitive warfare. They make false predictions on where the next outbreak will be. And once they, by coincidence, really guess the right spot, they make the ordinary people, who are usually not familiar with cognitive warfare, or not concerned enough about the related issues, start adopting the government, or even join the planted agents of the CCP in Taiwan. This is how the CCP is dividing the people in Taiwan using cognitive warfare. The worst thing is that there are two additional strategies of the CCP that have been found out by the Taiwanese national security officials. The CCP has been preventing Taiwan from using the WHO-led COVAX mechanism in obtaining its AstraZeneca vaccines twice. China has also used the various methods and channels to interfere with Taiwan's access to vaccines. For example, for the vaccines that were about to ship on the scheduled date, Taiwan was suddenly notified that there were some parts of the shipment that were not ready due to various reasons, thus postponing the delivery of the vaccine. Let's talk about some pro-China opinion leaders and politically active people that were trained by the CCP. The Taiwan Affairs Office of the State Council of China once again used vaccines as one of the means of united front propaganda against Taiwan. Oh, and let's not forget about the pro-China political parties in Taiwan. They started promoting Chinese vaccines that are not effective. It has been confirmed by China when China said that they're considering mixing the vaccines. Another example related to the Chinese vaccines: Thai volleyball team. 26 members of the volleyball team, after being vaccinated by the Sinovac vaccine, got the CCP virus. It only makes it obvious that the CCP's united fronts and their supporters' goal is to only use the epidemic in Taiwan as well as the new wave of global pandemic to promote their ineffective vaccines. Same as what the Chinese propaganda has been doing for a long time. In addition to the Chinese vaccine war, the CCP is still engaging in the public opinion warfare and psychological warfare against Taiwan. The editor-in-chief of the Chinese state-run media Global Times, Hu Xijing, forgot about all the catastrophes that happened in China recently. Power outages in northeast China, floods, concealing the CCP virus, African swine fever, and so on. And he started speaking shamelessly that Taiwan is like a dangerous building. If China huffs and puffs, it will blow it away. He even ordered Taiwan to use the totalitarian CCP measures and impose mass lockdowns. And coincidentally, some pro-China local officials in Taiwan are still eager to try out the lockdown policies of such non-democratic countries as the CCP-run China. Didn't they only fail to calm the Taiwanese people? They even caused more panic amongst the Taiwanese people in their towns and villages. And of course, they didn't admit their negligence in pandemic prevention, nor did they think on how can they learn on their former mistakes, and also didn't apologize to the people. As a result, the divide between their supporters and the Taiwanese people that have been really fighting the pandemic only became wider. What's interesting, the CCP is laughing at Taiwan, and on the other hand saying that China is caring about Taiwan. Looks pretty schizophrenic to me. And the only result of these propaganda pieces is that rational Taiwanese only deepen their negative opinions in regards to the CCP. In addition, Taiwan, which is located in subtropical and tropical regions, entered the hot season. And Xinta power plant right at that time encountered a malfunction in an ultra-high pressure voltage substation. At the moment, Tai Power Company thought that if the power transmission continues, the whole generation system might be in danger. Therefore, they decided to impose phased blackouts to protect the power plant. The Taiwanese government realized that hydroelectric power generation could not make up for all the temporary increase in demand caused by shortage. So for 5 days, the power was to be cut off for a few hours a day in 2 major areas. In Taiwan, where temperatures go very high sometimes, it of course caused negative reaction amongst the citizens. And as due to the pandemic, you couldn't go to any other places to escape the heat, like shopping malls. Of course, the CCP used all those problems in their cognitive warfare. Taiwanese pro-CCP political parties didn't do anything to comfort citizens, but rather held press conferences where they acted as the voices of the CCP propaganda. What did they say? No water, no electricity, no vaccines in Taiwan. How long can Taiwan last? Creating an illusion that Taiwan is a weak country in the eyes of the Taiwanese people. However, the pro-China political parties didn't mention that it was them who initiated a referendum a couple of years ago to gradually reduce the thermal power generation for at least 1% a year. On the surface, it seems they're fighting air pollution, but they didn't actually give any proposals on how to supplement the power supply after reducing the thermal power generation. They also recently started pushing forward another referendum to protect algal reefs. The goal here is to prevent the Taiwan government from building the third natural gas receiving station in northern Taiwan that actually has already passed the environmental assessment. So why do the pro-CCP parties act like that? One of the reasons is that Taiwan stopped the construction of their fourth nuclear power plant. Many countries realize the dangers coming from the nuclear power plants. And there is a trend of decreasing the number of newly constructed ones, switching to renewable energy and green energy. Taiwan was also trying to keep up with other developed nations. But those pro-China political parties in Taiwan have been calling for relaunch of the fourth nuclear power plant construction, even though it has been terminated a long time ago. According to the research results published by Professor Chen Wenshan of the Department of Geology of National Taiwan University in 2019, there are active faults around the fourth nuclear power plant and adjacent sea areas. The length of the fault is more than 40 kilometers. Some studies suggest that the length of the fault adjacent to the fourth nuclear power plant may reach 90 kilometers, and another F2 fault is only 5 kilometers away from the power plant. In other words, the earthquake-resistant qualities of the fourth nuclear power plant. The construction of the plant was planned more than 40 years ago. These earthquake-resistant qualities might have been underestimated. There is also a problem with machinery on the power plant. Many of the related machinery and safety protection units have been phased out. As an example, the plant's advanced boiling water reactor has been phased out more than 20 years ago. The safety control systems, which are unique and incompatible with other units, have also been phased out by the suppliers. It would be very hard to fix or replace anything on the plant. Oh yes, and let's not forget about the multiple accidents that happened during construction. Explosion in the main control room, errors in cabling design, hundreds of times when outlines have been changed illegally, power plants soaking in water after typhoon, phasing out of necessary spare parts and units. Needless to say, countless work safety issues, non-compliance with construction instructions and design outlines, contractors evading responsibility and even running away, and so on. According to the records of the Atomic Energy Council, there have been more than 500 of various violations that have been fined, and nearly 20 major violations. And we didn't even start talking about budgeting. It would take a very long time to provide a detailed review. And there is another thing. The fourth plan that the pro-China parties have been advocating for will not be able to keep up with the current power demand. Taiwan's electricity demand is still growing rapidly with economic development. In 2020, Taiwan's electricity consumption went up 3.6%. In the future, Taiwan's semiconductor industry will increase its production capacity. The return of the Taiwanese companies caused by the US-China trade war also resulted in increase of demand for electricity. And don't forget about the rise in demand for electric vehicles. It is estimated that the average annual growth rate of electricity demand in the next 5 to 6 years will reach 2.5%, and the peak power load will also grow by about 2.3%. Therefore, the Taiwanese can clearly see that the pro-China political parties are building hype around the fourth nuclear power plant issues, preventing Taiwan from building natural gas receiving stations, restricting thermal power generation. They say that they are serving Taiwanese, but in reality they actually do nothing to solve any problems. They say that they supervise the ruling party, but in fact they're just helping the CCP to launch their united front attacks against Taiwan, restrict its development and weaken its defense abilities. In fact, since 2016, Taiwan's ruling party has not only built its first offshore wind farm, which is called Formosa 1, it is now more actively replacing the coal-fired power with gas-fired power, while KMT continues to pull back. Look at the statistics. The air emission reduction of Taipower has dropped from 105,800 tons in 2016 to 46,800 tons in 2020. 55.76% is a very good result. In addition, the government has also continued to develop solar cells and gradually increase the percentage of green power in the power grid. The total energy generated by renewable power sources surpassed the 3 nuclear power plants. A lot has been done to reduce nuclear power sources and coal and increase the power generated from the renewable sources and gas. Taiwan has constantly been a target of China's cognitive warfare, and those attacks are only more and more rigorous. The CCP is exerting its influence on various levels. It is an attempt to get Taiwan at the lowest cost possible, especially when the world is fighting with the pandemic and trying to revive the economy. Taiwanese should be more concerned about the issues related to their safety. The international community should also strengthen their efforts and provide more practical support to Taiwan. It is obvious that just calling for Taiwan to join international organizations is not enough to protect it. Even under pressure caused by the global pandemic, WHO can still ignore those calls and not allow Taiwan join even as an observer. It's a warning sign. In addition to the fact that the Taiwanese people and the government must work harder to eliminate the problem with serious infiltration of Taiwan. Democratic countries in Europe as well as the United States have to do their best to rectify the mistakes of the past, abandon the one China policy. This is the only way to maintain safety and stability of this world. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, please press like, subscribe and share. This is Tam, and I see you in the next one.